Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for Vita House for inviting me here tonight, and congratulations on your anniversary. I'm here to talk about family, but maybe a different kind of family, or family that has developed differently as the last few generations have developed. When I was asked to talk at this event, I knew family was going to be the topic, and I suppose it's been the topic for many reasons this year. Specifically, we're in the week of the World Congress of Families, but also the Dublin Pride Festival this year also centred around We Are Family and discussed topics such as like being a parent of an LGBTQ person, identifying as LGBT and having children. And I will tell you that I will refer to the LGBT community as gays. For this, it's just easier to say than LGBTQ, as you can imagine. There's been a dramatic social revolution since the visit of our last Pope in 1979 for all communities, but maybe especially for the LGBTQ community. And we can't look at the present or the future without looking back. It gives us a sense of context. So, in 1855 and in 1861, there was two pieces of legislation passed, the 1861 being the Offences Against the Person Act, which made being homosexual illegal. This was a British law, but when the Free State was established, this was extended to the Irish Free State as well. And it would be 108 years before that law was appealed. In the UK, in the 1960s, the threat of being arrested was so big that the community in the UK, specifically in London, developed their own language called Polari to talk amongst themselves without the fear of being arrested. In the US, homosexuality was classified as a mental disorder. And it was around these events that in a pub in New York called the Stonewall Inn, after months and years of police intimidation, and on the night that Judy Garland was buried, that the gay community fought back. And for 3 or 4 days, there was an ongoing battle between police and members of the LGBT community and their supporters. And because out of this, the Pride movement developed in the US and across the world. And that was the birth of the Pride movement. What did this mean for people in Ireland? Well, in the 1970s, a gentleman who recently was interviewed said that in the 1970s, there wasn't really a word for being gay. We used to scour our British newspapers to get a sense of what it meant. You would have to look for it in reviews. So you identified as being one type of thing, but not being able to discuss it or have an idea of what that was amongst your peers and your community. In the 1980s, a gentleman from Wexford talked about growing up gay in Ireland and said, "I spent years being lonely in a very particular way. I was surrounded by friends and family, but my shame and secrets kept us at arm's length from one another. I never felt connected to them and that they were seeing a true version of myself." So there was a sense of isolation. And for many people, the road to Dublin or large big cities, the chance to assimilate with people of your own sexuality and had the same set of ideals and understandings is what happened to a lot of people. Those who stayed at home, stayed closeted, may never have come out, may have chosen a different way of life, and maybe not a way of life that was ideal for their mental or physical well-being. And in terms of role models, when I was growing up, Julian Clary, Kenny Everett, camp men, they were the only LGBT individuals you'd see on the screen. They were hilariously funny, but they weren't someone that I would have aspired to be. So change in Ireland. Some of you may be aware of the Declan Flynn case. He was a gentleman in 1982 on the 9th of September, was walking home from the pub, regular pub, and a few people who knew that he was gay set on him and attacked him, the youngest being a 14-year-old boy. It was, a witness said in court, they were said to say, "Let's bash this queer." The 5 men were given suspended sentences. They walked free. And the judge said on the case, "One thing has come to mind, that there is no element of correction required in this case. All of you come from good homes and experienced care and affection in your childhood." This wasn't a great result, but this result, the words said and the general feeling, started the Pride community in Ireland. The following year, there was a march from Fairview Park to O'Connell Street. It only had 13 people. The most recent Pride event had 70,000 people involved. There's power in numbers and there's power in repeating. Along with the Pride movement came a lot of social change and legislation. David Norris, Mary Robinson, Mary McAleese, who's in the papers at the moment, for pretty much the same reason, and Myra Gagan Quinn, who was the Justice Minister who brought in the repeal of the acts against the homosexual law, and we've just celebrated a big anniversary this year. That was 1993, and I suppose this was around when I was getting ready to go to college. I went to college in 1998. The big schmoke as it was, I was in arts college in Dunleary. And it was a trip to bingo. Some of you might recognise Shirley Temple Bar from Telly Bingo in the George, the famous George, where I felt comfortable in my own skin. And so did everyone else there, and that was an unusual feeling for me. And I knew that there was others in the community that were happy, and that we could live another story. And there was, I suppose, a voyage of self-discovery. There was a good few drinks taken that night as well, though, so that could have been part of the discovery. So what does this mean for family and the subject that we're on tonight? Well, the generation that I came from was, I suppose, the first generation since decriminalisation. We were in a new, open society. Acceptance was widening, that was certain, but many families still didn't know that their sons and daughters were gay. And it would be another generation before they would identify at an earlier age about their sexuality. There was a growing in confidence, and there was a lot of people aligning themselves with their peers and making really strong friendships. But we've talked about family earlier on tonight, and we've talked about having family with peers, with social groups, not necessarily with those who you're related to. And that was especially the situation in the LGBT community back in the 90s and the early thousands. I use a term, but it's a slag more than anything, the gay ghettos, that people align themselves with communities. These 4 gentlemen here in the top right-hand picture, they're part of the Emerald Warriors Rugby Club. I'm officially the worst rugby player that has ever existed. But these people welcomed me in, put me on the wing back, which is where you put people who can't play rugby, and became really, really good friends. I even posed for a nude calendar for them. Well, the less said about that, the better. But there are other clubs. There are hiking clubs, there are soccer clubs, there's roller derby clubs, and try as I might, I still can't figure out what roller derby is. And many people joined these clubs, were so exuberant in these groups, but still kept their LGBT side hidden from their families. But that started to change. A new social revolution was coming. The Pride movement grew. I was involved I was on the committee of Dublin Pride in 2010 and 2011, and at that point, 35,000 people were marching on the streets. You don't need to be a master of statistics to figure out there wasn't 35,000 gay people marching. It was people starting to bring out their friends and their family. And that was a very, very important social change. And that has changed so much more in the intervening years. The yearly marches grew, and you would walk behind your county or the team that you're involved with, or the social cause that you happen to be involved with. But there was another cause coming to the fore, and that was the cause of equality, and specifically being recognised as a couple in the eyes of the state, and specifically in marriage, I suppose. In 2010, we got the Civil Partnership Bill. We asked one simple question after that.
Hi. I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage, please.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks.
Hi.
I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
I feed your words through my buttonholes. I bring them to my fingerless gloves.
Hi. I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage.
Constantin.
Gama. An bhfuil ceadagum Sinead a Closa?
Tá.
Brilliant. Go Margaret. I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage. Hello. I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage, please.
Let's get lost, me and you, an ocean and
Can I ask for Sinead's hand in marriage, please?
Yeah?
Thanks.
Come on.
I'd like to ask for Sinead's hand in marriage.
So came the referendum. The Yes Equality campaign ran the referendum on a story basis. So they encouraged members of the community and members who weren't in the community to tell their personal stories. And that's what started to happen in the marriage referendum. Celebrities such as Gay Byrne, who had a dramatic effect, to be perfectly honest, Mary McAleese, Mrs. Brown, all came out and told their stories. And it was great to see that on the doorsteps of Ireland, on the airwaves and in print, LGBT was being discussed for the first time around the kitchen table. And now, if I just stand here, it was a great success. No, it was. And actually, I was one of the leaders of the Roscommon campaign. And it might be a red mark in the map, but you know, it actually got people in Roscommon talking after the result. And actually, that's encouraging. There was one big topic of discussion during the referendum, and that was family. Both campaigns focused on family, but the No campaign focused very heavily on children deserving a mother and a father. And funnily enough, this photo in the poster is a stock footage photo. A couple and their child got paid for taking a photo. They didn't know what it was for. Probably not even around the same time. Twitter got involved, and it turns out that the two people in the photo abjectly rejected being in this photo. So they did another poster. Asking what was a proper family was not the right question to be asking. There's no such thing as a proper family. It isn't always a mother, a father, and children. Whether it be from bereavement, whether it be through separation, or whatever reason, the family is whatever family you had. And that was perhaps one of the things that pushed the campaign for yes. It didn't reflect modern society. And one thing that really pushed this in Ireland was that our village structure is so small that everyone knows someone who's gay. And everyone knows that that person isn't going around eating babies. And that's why the story was positive and we were delighted with the result. And now a new generation of gay has come. The new LGBT kids expect to be accepted. And that's such a positive thing. There's no fighting anymore. Social taboos have disappeared. And families are more involved and informed. Both my parents have passed away. And my partner's family, from the moment we started going out, have invited me up for Christmas every year, and Easter, and all the other celebrations. And it's just natural, and it's great to be that way. And young gay, lesbian, transgender children expect that to be the situation. And why not? One thing that I'm very proud of being involved with, and this is my last slide, in Roscommon, is a new group that we set up called TLC, Tishmahori Lakela. And it's specifically for parents of LGBT children who want to talk, might want to talk about this situation that they're in. We hold a meeting in the Melting Pot space the last Monday of every month between 7 and 9. And it's a drop-in, there's no obligation. We also have a helpline that's open every Monday night at the same time, and the helpline number is there, and we have some flyers downstairs. We want to make it as positive for any child growing up in Roscommon. And don't forget, the children in the last few years have seen that red mark on the map. And we don't want that to be a negative thing that they're from Roscommon. So we're here to try and help. And if you could pass it on to any users that you might think might be thankful for it, that would be great. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.